No question that one of the best parts about living here and one of the reasons why so many people are moving here is because of the excellent public school district that we have. It's not really the same for all of the suburbs of Metro Atlanta. There are certainly some suburbs that have poor public school systems. There are some terrible public schools, unfortunately, in Metro Atlanta, but the same cannot be said for Alpharetta. Alpharetta has some of the best in all of the country. Fortunately, Alpharetta has a lot more tax money to put into some of the public services like public schools. According to greatschools.org, Chattahoochee High School is a 10 out of 10, OC Elementary School is a 9 out of 10, and Autry Mill Middle School is a 9 out of 10. Also really important to think about is that like some suburbs have some good public schools. Like for example, Marietta, there are some parts that the public school districts are kind of dicey, and then there are some parts that have excellent public schools. But Alpharetta, pretty much across the board, is all great public schools. All of the public schools in Alpharetta are like 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10, according to greatschools.org. And so because of this, it really doesn't matter what part of the city you live in, you're going to live in a great area with excellent public school district. Another thing that brings a lot of people here is the modern homes that we have. There are a lot of houses in other suburbs where they're like 80s houses and 70s houses, and they look like they've got 40, 50 years on them. But Alpharetta has a lot more new homes that were built in the last 5 to 10 years and actually, like up to date with modern building codes, which is not the same for other suburbs. And so to be able to find such newer homes and like they are, they have that modern touch to them, a lot of characteristics that you find in newer homes, like open concept and these, super bright kitchens that are open to the living room with the big islands. This is all very common here. So certainly one of the things that draws a lot of people to Alpharetta. Of course, if you're thinking about moving here and you just have any questions about moving to Alpharetta, or you want to know what the home buying process is like in Alpharetta, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I'm the one who answers those messages and those phone calls, and I'd be happy to help with your moving needs. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. I love helping folks get acquainted with my hometown. But another thing that brings so many people here to our amazing city is the access to healthcare facilities. There are lots of great healthcare facilities all around this city. Just off the top of my head, we have Northside Forsyth, which is just a few miles north of Alpharetta. Also, Wellstar North Fulton Hospital is just on the south side of Alpharetta, and those are both major hospitals. But there are also lots of doctors' offices, lots of urgent care facilities all around the area. And so this is one thing that makes it easy, especially for senior citizens who need regular doctor's visits. This is one of the things that brings so many people here to our city. Number 4 on the list for 11 reasons that everybody is moving here to Alpharetta is the shopping and the restaurants. Without a doubt, some of the best shopping and some of the best restaurants can be found here. One of the best places for that is the Avalon, which is on Old Milton Parkway. They have some great stores there. Some of my favorites, of course, the Apple store is there, which is like an absolute must if you are indoctrinated into the Apple world like myself. Or the Peloton store is there, the Tesla store. Also, Cafe Intermezzo is one of my favorite restaurants that's there in the Avalon. And there are just no end of great places to hang out, great restaurants and shopping there in the Avalon. And so this is a big draw for a lot of people who move here. And then just north of Alpharetta is the Halcyon. The Halcyon is kind of like in between Alpharetta and Forsyth County, but it's pretty much accessed by a lot of people who live here in Alpharetta, and they also have a lot of great restaurants and shopping there. Unfortunately, you really can't find as good of shopping or as good of restaurants in some of the other suburbs of Metro Atlanta. So for our city to have this many shopping options, this many restaurant options is really a big draw for many people who live here. Number 5 on the list is downtown Alpharetta. This is one of the best hangout spots, certainly one of my favorites, especially on evenings and weekends. My family and I love to hang out in downtown Alpharetta. There's so much to do there, so much to see. There's a park right behind City Hall. There's like a greenway, like a path through the woods. It's not really a path through the wood, it's kind of like a paved trail from downtown Alpharetta to the Avalon. There's also shops and restaurants there in downtown Alpharetta, and the access to downtown area is really easy to get to. It's right in the middle of the city. So all of the residents of Alpharetta have easy access to this part of town. And this is really one of the highlights of living here. Number 6 on the list is just the general feel and the general appearance of our city. It's so clean. The streets are very clean. The sidewalks are nice and wide. The landscaping is all very well taken care of by the city. In general, the Alpharetta Public Services are just some of the best in all of Metro Atlanta. And this really helps keep our city looking much better than some of the other cities of Metro Atlanta. And really, one of the things that you see right away as soon as you are in Alpharetta is just how beautiful it is. You know, there aren't overgrown wooded areas really anywhere in Alpharetta. You're not going to find lots that have been abandoned. This isn't the kind of thing that you see here. It's much more of a better taken care of area, especially because of the standards that the community has. A lot of people who live in Alpharetta expect these kinds of amenities, the sidewalks, the streets, the power lines. You know, you don't see power lines above ground very often in Alpharetta. Again, the same cannot be said for some of the other suburbs. In Alpharetta, the power lines are buried below ground. If you're not from Alpharetta, if you're not from Georgia, you might think, well, that's seems kind of obvious. Like, isn't that normal? Nah, it's not. It's not normal here in Georgia. It's actually very common for the power lines to be above ground, especially like in neighborhoods or right in front of houses. You'll see power lines. I mean, not inexpensive house. I'm not talking about like the bad areas. I'm talking about like the good areas. East Cobb, for example, is one of these areas where the average home is $800,000, but the power lines are very often above ground and are very unsightly in these very wealthy neighborhoods. In Alpharetta, most of the time, almost all of the time, the power lines are buried below ground. In general, the infrastructure in Alpharetta is much better than pretty much all of the other suburbs of Metro Atlanta. Number 7 on the list of why everybody is moving to Alpharetta is because of the job market here. We have so many employers, so many businesses. We have a very active tech industry here in Alpharetta, and so many people live here in Alpharetta because of the ease to get to work. To be able to live in Alpharetta and work in the same city is super convenient, especially in a big city like Metro Atlanta. To have that short commute is a big draw for many people. Number 8 on the list is the family-friendly feel that you have here in Alpharetta. This is not like the middle of Atlanta where you are going to have high crime or where it's not very family-friendly. In general, there are a lot of families who live here, so a lot of the public services are aimed towards family activities. Downtown Alpharetta is where you'll find a lot of families, especially places like the Avalon or the Halcyon regularly have young families. I think one of the reasons for this is the public schools. Because they are such excellent public schools here, you're going to see a lot of young families here in Alpharetta. And then another thing is actually number 9 on the list, the amount of parks and green space that we have here. This is another big draw for many of the people who moved to Alpharetta, and another factor for why it's so family friendly. Lots of parks here, lots of green space, especially like sports, baseball, football, basketball, all of these kinds of extracurricular activities for kids or for students is super common here in Alpharetta. Number 10 on the list of why everybody is moving here is the amount of community that you can find here. People are in general just kind of very friendly here in Alpharetta. It's very easy to get along with your neighbor or meet neighbors, especially like in the HOA areas, the clubhouse areas where you have the pool or tennis courts. A lot of the neighborhoods here in Alpharetta have these kinds of common grounds, common areas, the pools and the tennis courts. So it makes it very easy to meet your neighbors, which really builds this kind of sense of community. And many people who live here love Alpharetta. Everybody loves their city. So all of this kind of makes this sense of community that you can't find in other parts of Metro Atlanta. And then number 11 on the list is just the fact that Alpharetta is the best suburb in all of Metro Atlanta. This is definitely one of the reasons why everybody is moving here. But I have a bonus tip for you. There's definitely a lot of great reasons to move here, but there's one thing that you need to know about if you plan on moving to Alpharetta. And this aspect of living here could change your mind, and it's a deal breaker for many people, especially people who are trying to find lower cost of living than their current residence. But for some, it's exactly what they're looking for, especially if they're moving from another state. And what I'm referring to is the cost of living. The cost of living in Alpharetta is certainly something that you need to check out before you move here. If you want a full video on a breakdown of the monthly expenses associated with living in Alpharetta, check out this video. I'll see you there.